All right, so day first, we're going to go over the role. It's going to be a fun day going over the role, redefining it together. I have some questions for you guys. Day two, understanding the deal flow from buyer to closing to stabilizing the asset. Day three, we're going to go over property lead source. Where do we get our leads from? Day four, managing client expectations. If you ask me, one of the main reasons that we put this training together and we hire Sidon and we're doubling down on this is because of managing the client's expectations. We have not done it the way that we should be doing it. So that's an important one. Contract intake, escrow management, anything that has to do with the title company and the funds that go into the title company. Day 6.5, sometimes you're going to have days like that. 6.5 is that me, rather than having to change all of these numbers, if an idea comes up later from me, from Sidon, from any of you guys, let's plug it in. We plug it in. If we feel like, man, this should go between 6 and 7, we just go 6.5 rather than having to rewrite everything. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Number 7, file setup and communication. Number 8, day 8, title process. Number 9, lending coordination. Day 10, lending conditions. So once you do the coordination, what are the conditions to get it to the closing table? Day 11, financial readiness. Day 12, property status. Day 13, inspection and validation. Day 14, tracking the system. Day 15, the HUD, otherwise known as the closing statement. That's the HUD, very important. Day 16, closing coordination. Day 17, what happens after we close? This is an important one. This is why we put in the same team together, because sometimes the sales team is great selling, and then the client disappears. So this is a part that's super important. Number 18, the rehab. Number 19, the property management. Number 20, client experience. And that's so far what we have. Doesn't mean we're going to take 20 days. We could take 10 days, or we could take 30 days, depending how slow or how fast we go. Okay, if we feel like we're cruising, we could potentially take 2 days in 1 day. If we feel like we need to be more granular, the 20 days could take up to 90 days. And that's why we set it up like that. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Right.
All right. Final principle is this is the final principles for the ops team. You control the process. You communicate constantly. You close on time. You build relationship. This is how we all win. And then we're going to have an area of things that go wrong usually. Okay. So that is the course, the complete course. Now let's talk about what do we have today. Today we're going to start with defining the role. I'm going to start reading aloud, and let's see, we got what time we have. So we have about 3 hours to go over this. So we're going to go over this stuff. Then I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to answer them together. And then we have the exercise of recreating between you guys the role. And it's going to go first to Dawn. Dawn, so when we finish at 12, you're going to start creating what you think the role is for you. And then you're going to pass it to Raj. Raj is going to review it, add anything he wants to add. And then at the end, Raj is going to pass it to Siron. I'm going to give you guys an hour to do that. So you guys could go to lunch from 12 to 1 and then get this back to me at 2 or 3. I need it before the end of the day. But it's important for us to do this exercise quick, not 2-3 hours quick. Hey, let me get it done. So this is important. That is why it's important that you start taking notes now, because you know that that's coming later. Make sense?
All right.
If you guys say, when I say make sense, if you guys says understood quick, all three of you, then I can move faster. Okay?
Okay.
Understood.
All right, perfect.
Understood.
All right, so let's start with the role of the operations team. So the operations team, and this is actually operations teams for GA, right? Greystone Acquisitions. Greystone Acquisitions is the arm of Greystone where you invest and we do the rest. Is the part where you acquire the properties, right? Anytime that I'm talking to an investor, I'm saying we're the full service company, turnkey service provider. We have 4 departments. We have the acquisitions. We have the project management, which means doing the repairs, property management, lending, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so anytime somebody asks, actually, acquisitions, project management, and property management, let's include that into one. Then you have lending, and then you have the brokerage. The brokerage is where you have the agents and stuff like that. And why is that important in the cycle? Is because eventually, let's say we're helping an investor with a flip, it will go to the brokerage usually to help, right? Or the agents themselves help us find investors, etc. All right. But today we're going to focus on the first part of that process, right? Greystone Acquisitions. Is Greystone Acquisitions or Greystone dispositions? We're really, even though we're discussing Greystone Acquisitions as the name of the company, we act as a company, as a disposition company. What does that mean? Let me see if Don wants to give it a shot. Why are we an actual dispositions company, not an acquisitions company?
Yes, because we are actually selling these properties to our VIPs. So yeah, we're acquiring the property, yeah, and then sell it to our VIPs.
Exactly. So within everything, when it comes to acquisitions, it's like the main thing that the company does. But then there's 2, what do you call it, niches. One of them is through acquisitions, and the other one is through dispositions. Acquisitions is we're out there getting the real estate. So in other words, we're at the courthouse betting on foreclosures, or we're knocking on doors trying to get this seller to sell the property to us. We're out there into, our mode is property based. Our mode is property acquisitions. That's the true acquisitions company, right? And then dispositions is when you actually catering the buyer, catering the VIP. You're building up a clientele, a pool of potential buyers, a database of buyers. You're on the buyer side. So acquisitions, you're on the seller side, helping sellers. Dispositions, you're on the buyer side. Okay. As a company, all falls into Greystone Acquisitions because it's the acquisitions of properties and clients, but our niche as a company is dispositions. So if somebody comes to us and says, I have these 10 buyers that want to buy from you, or they say, oh, versus I have these 10 properties I want to sell to you, chances are we're going to be gravitate more towards the properties because we already get the clients. We're already a dispositions company. That makes sense?
Understood.
Yep.
So that's why, and why is this important? Because when we're talking to wholesalers really do the acquisitions part of the business. We do the disposition part of the business. In the past, I've tried to do both. In the past, I tried to do acquisitions and dispositions, and it's just very hard to do because it requires two SOPs. It requires a lot of training. It requires for you to be able to put money into the acquisitions. It requires for you to put signs, for you to go and drive for dollars, uh, put $10,000 in marketing, get people to call you. It's a different beast. It requires a lot of people, just like dispositions, and we just better. We feel like we were better educators. Therefore, since we're educators, that's within our DNA. Since we're educators online, we're better being on the disposition side, and that's why we've been doing dispositions for a long time. That makes sense. We're a disposition company under Greystone Acquisitions. Understood?
Understood.
All right. Okay, so the core principle, an operator that starts the moment a deal is fully executed. So our role in ops is not to sell, is not to convince anybody to buy. Nothing like that. We don't call anyone to try to get them to become buyers. We don't try to call anybody to pitch on properties. You don't do none of that. The minute that the Greystone acquisition teams puts a property on the contract and it's executed, then we move in with the specialist after the property is executed. Raj, I'm going to give you this question. What is a fully executed contract? You might know this. You've dealt with contracts in the past.
So the fully executed contract will be containing their ID, the buyer, seller, and the total period of time which is it has to be sold in, and additional agreement terms which is based at the end of the contract. Have to see if it's lead paint. Then I think that's all. According to me, it's a fully executed contract.
Okay.
And who is the title company in also should be mentioned in there.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you, Raj. I appreciate it. So executed contract is exactly what Raj said. You have something with signed with the buyer and the seller. Money is placed in the title company and everything is signed and executed, right? Think of the contract as the contract is there's action that need to be done on the contract. The contract is, let's call it performance driven, right? I think if you look at it like that, that is performance driven, it's going to make more sense to you. So once it's written down in a piece of paper, what is expected from the buyer, what is expected from the seller, and then there's a commitment from both parties. Now it's all about getting that executed. Okay, so there's an action behind it, right? So it becomes kind of like a work order when you think about it. Let's say if you were in Amazon warehouse, you're not gonna go and start packing anything or delivering anything until you have an executed or like a receipt or executed transaction, right? And that's the client signed for it, paid for it, etc. So now is when you start the action of the operations and doing whatever you need to do. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yep.
So when it's not a contract executed, when you only have one of the signatures. So you could the person could say, yeah, I want it. I tell you I want it. And how come you guys haven't started the process? Well, you haven't signed it. Either buyer, seller, you haven't signed it. Another reason why the contract will not be executed is if they both signed it, but there's no money in escrow. You know, typically with a contract, you have 3 days to put that money in escrow. Okay. And the contract, I'm gonna have Raj before the end of the day, sometime today, we're gonna just glance at a contract. And then Raj, if you don't have one, I can tell Chris to send me one and we could glance through it very quick. But we're gonna go into detail in a later class. Okay. But those are the only way, the two ways the contract is not executed. Either it's not signed or the money is not in place. Okay. And once again, think of it as a work order. Okay. You're like the ops, let's say Raj, you took the order, you're gonna be like, okay, is this paid? Do we have the address? Do we have the client's info? Okay, all right, so let's chip it and let's send it. But until it's 100% executed, we don't. All right. So let me continue reading from here. That will help me elaborate more. But like I said, executed contract, both of them signed. At that exact moment, then it's no longer a responsibility of acquisitions. The responsibility is to you. Okay. So at that moment, it's not about relying on sales. They need to go and get the next property. It is completely up to you to make sure that that thing closes on time. Okay. Your job is not to find deals. Your job is not to negotiate deals. Your job is to make sure the deal closes and perform after closing. Remember, the contract is performance driven. It's a work order. It's a service, right? And once the person pays, or in this case, not pay, but puts the money in escrow, then we're supposed to go ahead and perform. Okay. All right. What you own end to end, you're responsible for managing the entire process. So your job is to manage the entire process from the contract to closing. And within that process of closing, you can have the easy deal, which is somebody just paying cash for it. Or you have the one that is a little more complex, where there's lending involved. Okay. Then after that, you have the rehab process, the property management or sale process. So contract. What is contract item?
The contract is what starts the deal off. You know, you get the signature from the buyer and the seller. That's what starts what would start my role as operations manager.
Exactly. Perfect. And then what is closing, Don?
Yeah, closing is pretty much like everything. You got like the documents and the necessary information for the for the buyer. Everything like the document or the contract or like the title. Yeah.
Exactly. So closing is where the property is titled under the seller, and now it's titled under your buyer, right? Everything that, all of the information, like you said, collecting all the information, making sure that we pass the title from. It's that simple. Closing is passing the title from one person to the other, and then anything that happens in between. In order to pass that title from one person to the other, person A needs to get compensated. How do we do the compensation? Do we get a third party involved, like a bank, to help us finance that transaction, or are we gonna provide cash? And then everything that is that's also part of it, like ensuring getting the title company involved, so we make sure that the title is clean and there's no issues. Okay. What is the rehab, Raj?
Rehab is basically when we acquire the property, it goes to repairs, and that's what my understanding is about rehab. That it goes through certain changes, and the property goes through certain changes, and getting the repairs done.
Absolutely. When it comes to distress company like us, like a lot of people come to us because they want distressed properties because they know with distressed properties you get the biggest bang for the dollar. The reason why some investors don't do distressed properties is because they don't know where to find it, or they don't have the skills to be able to say, well, maybe that's too much. I don't know how to rehab it. But the big majority of the people that come to us, whether it's a flip, meaning they're going to buy, rehab, and resell, or whether it's a rental, they're going to also do a rehab. Okay. There's this term that you're going to learn later, but we're going to go over it right now. When you're rehabbing a property, and please write this down, you're putting forced equity into it. Okay. So think of somebody strong like Superman, whoever, Popeye, whatever the case may be, and forcing more value to this property, squeezing against the property value. That's called forced equity, which is rehabbing a property. Okay, you guys gonna hear that term a lot. It's important for you guys to understand. When a client is coming and saying, "Oh, I wanna buy a property because I wanna put forced equity into it," it's also called sweat equity, but for the most part, you're gonna hear forced equity. That means that let me force value to it. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Who could give me some examples of what will be forced equity into a house that has back kitchen, back floors, back bathrooms? What will be an example of forced equity?
I think doing conversion, or is that what?
Doing what?
Conversion. Like, let's say if a property is like just a 3 beds and 1 bath, like to add like another bathroom,
Absolutely
like
good job.
convert it.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you see room within the spaces of the property, and you tell the client, listen, we're gonna rehab this, we're gonna force equity into this by converting it from a 3-1 to a 3-2. Absolutely good job done. That makes sense. What else?
You would remodel the places that need attention. You know, you said bathroom, right? Kitchen, update those appliances, those areas.
Absolutely. So if you take a bathroom that, let's say, hypothetically is outdated, it could be functional, but super outdated. And it just doesn't apply to the demands of the today person. Then updating the bathroom to today's standards, that's also forced equity, right? Because if somebody comes in to buy this property later or even rent the property, and they feel like, oh man, this shower is too tiny. This is from like the 1950s. But now you have rearranged the bathroom, whereas to fit today's standards better, then now you've created forced equity. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Raj, any other one that you can think of?
This term is new for me, so I don't know much about it. So I'll just back out on this one.
Okay, so let me give you a couple of more examples of forced equity. You could go put new floors, right? If you have old carpet, and it could be functional, but you want you want the property to look better, to force more equity. And when I say force equity, equity means more value to the property. That's what equity means, more value. So if you're getting more equity, you're getting more value. That makes sense?
Okay.
Yep.
Equity is the spread that you have between the debt and the value. So let's say that you bought the property for $200, you paid $5,000 worth of principal in the past 2 years. You get an assessment of the property, and the property is worth $300,000. So from the 200,000, let's start with the 200. You pay down 5K, so you're down to 195. But the value is 300. So how much equity you have? 105,000, right? That could go. That could be the case or not be the case, depending on the force equity that you put into the property. Because if you bought it and now it's worse, then when you bought it, the property could actually go negative in equity. It could be worth 190, and you have zero equity. You're actually in a negative territory, which is super bad. But if the tenant kept it up well, or if you rehabbed it well, and everything is looking good, or even updated, then that's where you can see the swings of equity through force equity. Okay.
Okay.
What's for force equity important? Is because when a client comes to us and say, "Well, we want to deal with a lot of equity," deals with a lot of equity are not like, was it something easy to grab around here? Because we don't even have oranges anymore, but they say it's not as easy as grabbing bananas from the supermarket, right? It's not like you can say, give me 3 with $100,000 of equity. It's not the case. So in order to build equity, you have to be a little smarter. You have to do it through the enhancement of the property. So it's one of the best ways that we get the client to get interested in investing with us. We say, hey, this property doesn't have 100 in equity when you buy it. It has 50, but we're gonna fix it and then we're gonna increase it to another 50, and now you're gonna have 100. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So that's the importance of force equity. You're gonna hear the sales team talk about that all the time. Okay. Okay, so after that we go into property management or for sale. Why do we have 2 options here when we offer the property to a client? Anybody wants to give it a shot?
So if the client has, after the client has bought it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the client can go for sale after rehab because it will get more value on after doing the rehab, or it can be the client can use it as as a rental property.
Absolutely. Right on. 100%. Good job, Roger. So the client has the option of going towards property management or for sale. Does it really matter to us as a company? Well, in the ideal world, everybody rents their properties because everything is a funnel to property management, and that's the core of our business. But in practical terms, we don't care. The client says, I want a property for rent, I want a property for sale. That's fine with us. Our jobs in operations is to make sure that the client sees that through happening. Okay. At least the part of making sure that the contract is right, the closing and lending and the communication is right with the lender, the rehab is right, Property Wiz or Camilo or anybody else that we're going to use in that process. This is extremely important that we communicate very good with the rehab team. If you ask me, one of the biggest challenge that any company out there, thank God, knock on wood, Greystone does pretty well because the CEO opted to come up with our own company because I knew that how difficult it's going to be. But this is usually if you ask me, 9 times out of 10, a client that comes to us burned is because the rehab went over budget by 50,000, 100, whatever the case might be. So the partnership and communication with the rehab team is super important. It could kill the deal, or it could make the client super happy, super important. And then the property management or sale. In your case, you'll know from the beginning, and it's your job to find out from the beginning when you're getting the property at the beginning. Is this actually is one of the first questions we should ask? So I'm gonna add that here. I'm gonna add this. One of the first questions that we should ask is it for sale or for management? It's not working. So I will say that, and there's going to be a lot of changes that we go through as we do this meeting, training, I'm sorry, which I'm very excited about because we can make it really granular and fill with this stuff. But I think this is one of the first questions you get asked the acquisitions team, because then when it comes to this part, what you're gonna do. Are you gonna do the onboarding to the property management team, or are you gonna do the onboarding to the brokerage and match the client with an agent that could put the property for sale? Okay, so let's go through the process in more detail. If the client, we put the property in the contract, that means that buyer and seller signs. They put the escrow, remember, within 3 days. That could be $1,000, $5,000, whatever the case may be. We have a closing day of, let's say, 2 weeks to 30 days, depending on if it's cash or lending. If it's cash, typically it's gonna go 2 weeks. If it's lending, probably 30 to 45 days. Then we're gonna have the rehab. Then we're gonna do the rehab with the team. It could take 30 days, it could take 90 days. Typically, if it's a rental, you should be done within 30 days. If it's a flip, it could take up to 3 months. Because when you rehab a rental, you're gonna do the minimum. When you rehab a flip, you're gonna do the maximum. And actually, now that let's stick to that for a second. So when it's a rehab, and the investor typically, when it's a rental, on a rehab on a rental, the investor doesn't care about how pretty the property looks, right? They just care about the cash flow. How much money can I make on the rental, right? So when the rehab is for a rental, it's very different than when it's for a flip. So for instance, with the analogy of earlier, if the carpet is working fine, doesn't need to be replaced, there's a chance that the investor buying the rental says, well, let's leave it like that because it's good enough for tenancy. For sale, the rehab require the most expensive floor, or not the most expensive floor, but the floor that matches the most expensive property that's sold in that area. Rehab, you chasing cash flow for rentals. For sales, you're chasing the highest equity possible. Remember, we talked about equity. What is equity? Well, how much you bought the property for, the loan that you have, versus how much the property is worth. And the bigger the spread is, the more money you're going to make as a flip. So once again, when it comes to a rehab of a rental, you're going to do the minimum possible because your success as an investor is based on how much you have to put in versus how much you're getting out on a monthly basis. Simple math. 2 + 2 is 4. So if for a rental, it's all about how much you put in and how much you're getting back in a monthly basis. So if you put a lot of money, right, guys, if you put a lot of money into the property, you fix everything, it will take you longer to recoup that money with cash flow, and it will take you longer to really make any money, right? Because if you spend $50,000 on a rehab and you're cash flowing $200 a month after you pay the mortgage, you positive $200, it will take you how long? It will take you a long time to recoup that $50,000, right? So that's why when it comes to rentals, and the tenant, might care a little bit, of course. They're gonna care a little bit about the floors, but it's not gonna be something where if you save the money you don't put it on the floor, it's not gonna be substantial enough to make a difference. So on rentals, you do the minimum possible. Now on the flip or the sell, you're north, you're the team that you want to play against or the team that you want to beat, or the Michael Jordan that you want to be is the sale that's sold in that area for the most. Let me explain. So if I'm doing a sale and I'm doing a sale in Tampa Terrace, my job is to look around and see what is the most expensive property that has sold recently. This, so for $1 million, okay, what type of finishes do I have to do to match this one? I don't go for the average. I don't go for the cheapest. I go for the most expensive because it's all about what's one time, boom, selling the property and building up as much equity as I can. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Any questions on that part so far of the rehab?
No.
No questions for me.
None so far.
Give me an example, Sidon. What will you do? What's the difference between a rehab done on a rental versus a rehab done on a flip?
All right, so a rehab done on a rental, as you said, you typically budget for the minimum, as the client doesn't really care how pretty the property looks. They just care, whether they're getting what they wanted in their pocket every month. For the sale, you budget for the maximum. You try to match the highest selling comp in the area when you go for sales. Yeah.
Absolutely. Amazing. You got it. Awesome stuff. And as you're tenant yourselves, right? Sidon, you're renting a property yourself.
Yes.
It's a balance between something that's cute, clean, and affordable versus something that is super pricey and not affordable, and it has to make sense. So that's why the rentals are like that. Okay. All right. So let's move to property management or sales. So at that moment, the client says, no, my goal is to rent. And by the way, we'll know this from the beginning. Then if it's for rent, we pass it on to our property management team. Okay. And there's I think, Raj, you've been involved in one of those. I've never been. Can you explain the team slow, try to articulate well? What is the process of the onboarding?
Okay. So for onboarding the property, so basically Jay talks to the client first. So that's the sales call he does. And then after that, if the client agrees to all the term and the call is good, we send the W-9 and direct deposit form to them. Once that is signed, we onboard them on AppFolio. We onboard the owner and onboard the property. After that, we send them the management agreement. Once the management agreement is signed by the owner, then the team handles on their onboarding call, and from there, the account manager is assigned. And from there, the account manager handles the property on behalf of the owner.
Perfect. Good job. Awesome. What I need from Don, let me write it down here. Special assignment. I need both of you to ask Jay the next time they have an onboarding meeting that you want to be a fly on the wall, so to speak, to learn it. So this is important. This is part of passing this the first lesson, day one. So please write it down, make it a something super important. And I need you to reach out to Jay and set up a time with him. Okay?
All right.
So you got that done?
Yep, I got it.
All right. So once the classes does homework, and I'm gonna be checking to make sure that we get it done. Super important. All right. So guys, we're doing great with time. Let's see how much we got. We're doing great. All right. What is the number one goal? Is to close every deal on time and without surprises. That's the goal of ops. Closing the deal on time and with zero surprises. Why? Because nothing trumps speed when it comes to acquisitions. Okay, and I'm gonna explain this so you guys can understand it. When somebody comes to you and they want to give away their property, right? Because we don't want to buy properties from the MLS if we can, right? We don't want to buy retail properties, is what I mean. I don't want to buy something that's super fixed and I'm paying big dollars for it. Actually, let me phrase it like this. I don't want to buy a flip to rent. What a great analogy, right? I don't want to buy a flip to rent. I don't want somebody to put everything super fancy to try to flip it, and then you're buying that property for renting because the numbers will not make any sense. You don't want to do that, right? So who are we going to buy properties from? Who are we going to buy properties from? Any idea, guys? Where do we buy properties from?
Usually motivated buyers, people who have a reason to sell, whether it's, financial or family.
Exactly. And you meant to say motivated sellers.
Yeah, yes.
Motivated sellers. So exactly. So we actually, some people think we're taking advantage of them. That's not the case. We're actually providing the service of relieving them from that pressure as quick as we can, right? That's why speed trumps everything, right? Somebody that is trying to sell for cash means they either had an emergency, personal situation, they're going to jail, they need the money. The parents left this home to them and it's been abandoned, it's getting vandalized, and they don't know what to do with it. They're losing equity. But practically everything is tied to speed. Everything is tied to speed. So when we say close every deal on time, it's because we can lose the deal quickly if we don't close on time. These sellers, that's all we're providing them. When you think about what you're providing them as a buyer, is the speed. That's all you're providing. You're not any prettier. You're not any nicer. I mean, being nicer and getting along with the seller, that definitely has its perks. But the reason why they're selling to you, let's be honest, is because you're saying, I'll take care of that quickly. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. In the ideal world, if we had $10 million, we would just go, here's the money today, but give me a deeper discount. So there's a correlation between how fast you're able to act and the deal you're gonna get. So the faster we go, the better deal you're gonna get. So if we know that the faster you go, the better deal you're gonna get in ops, it's our job to move fast. I would argue that if, let's say, hypothetically, the deal closes in 30 days and we close in 25, acquisitions will be like they will be so freaking excited that they might even say, here's a bonus. Because that is the goal, right? Closing on time. Let's talk about things that could happen. Things that good things, bad things. Well, good thing will be exactly that. The sellers, let's say hypothetically, we could close 5 days early, 10 days early. You're gonna inform the acquisitions team, and you're gonna say, hey, listen, I think we're ahead of time. We talked to the lender, we got everything there. Do they want to close early? Anybody wants to close early? And then the acquisition team could say, here's when it becomes really, here's when you become a hero. Acquisition team could say, hey, if you give me $2,000 more of a discount, we close today. And now you generated $2,000 to the acquisition team. You understand? That makes sense, guys?
Makes sense.
Yep.
All right. On the other hand, if we drop the ball, we fumble, whatever the case might be, and we close 1 hour too late, a day too late, we're supposed to close on a Friday, we close on a Monday, it can completely collapse the whole deal. We could lose $20,000 on the spot for only missing 1 hour. We're Friday, we're supposed to be ready at 5, we're ready at 5 p.m. Before 5 p.m. before we close, we're ready at 5:01. Now the deal is lost by 1 minute. 1 second, somebody get out of here. Lost. Why? Because while we were going through this process, the seller talked to a couple of neighbors, and they're like, man, you're crazy. You're giving that property away too cheap. Do anything you can not to, if these people delay, or if anything happens, do not renew that contract. I'll pay you an extra $10K. And that will be very sad, and you will probably cry if it gets to that point. So that's the importance of closing on time. As a matter of fact, once the property's under contract the first time, if I were you, my job is to call or at least send an email to everybody in the process and be like, what can I do today to expedite this process? The title company will say, well, we need a few more days to do this. Can you cut a day from the process? The lender says, I need 5 days. Can you do it in 4? You're constantly challenging all your teams because, once again, that could mean cash at the end. Any questions about that?
No.
Not so far.
All right, let's talk about some of the surprises that we can come up with. Missing documents. Okay. So when it comes to ops, this thing of overdoing it doesn't exist. You overdo it. You get the documents. Somebody says, well, we only need 1 form of ID, you get 2. We need only 1 bank statement, you get 2. Overdoing it when it comes to ops, that doesn't exist. To me, it's all about think ahead of time. Whatever the lender says, you say, okay, give me 3 bank statements instead of 2. Be on the lookout, because depending on when we close, there might be a chance the bank needs next month's bank statement, because you don't have it available right now because today is the 15th, the cutoff time is the 16th. But by the time we close, it's going to be the 30th. The bank is going to require an updated bank statement. So you're already ahead of that. It's like, let me have that. So no missing documentation. The cool thing about ops, guys, is you got 30 days for the most part, 2 weeks to 30 days to make sure that you have everything. Unlike sales, you have to strike while the iron is hot. Sales, you have to try to sell within 24 hours. Once the appetite is there, you got to go quick. When it comes to ops, you have 20, 30 days to get this done. So, and you have people that you could ask questions to. Who are the people? Let me ask you that question. Let me take Raj. Who are the people that you could call in the process of collecting all the documents to make sure that you have everything, Raj?
In Greystone or
Anybody, who can you call?
for collecting documents, I'll call the client to get all the
Okay.
documents, a list of documents. And I was thinking that we should have a list of documents where that makes the point that we do not miss any documents. So I'll call the clients. Basically, that's what my answer is.
Okay. Let me add that one, a good one here. List. Good job. Keep giving me ideas like that, guys, because this helps. Okay, good. Okay, cool. So you call a client directly. Communication is money. I don't care who you call. Now with the client, you have to be a little more careful because let's say that you're supposed to know your stuff, and if this is something that you're supposed to already have, and you don't have it now, or you're asking the client again 2-3 times for the same document, just be careful with the lingo, right? I would, if I were you, and I can't remember if the client received anything, or if I already asked the client something, I would just go, "Oh, Mr. Client, you have a minute? Let me just summarize everything that I have. I might ask you for things again a few times. We rather have redundancy than missing anything, and I'm sure that you can appreciate that." Yeah, I appreciate that. So set up the right expectations, because with the client is the one that you have to be the most careful with, because they could assume you don't know what you're doing, or already giving you this. So at the beginning, you definitely could do that. Towards the middle of it, you should rely less on the client. But contacting the client beats not knowing. So if you don't know and nobody's answering, contact the client. You should be careful with how the lingo is. "Oh, we just want to verify that we have this again, and I'll probably ask you again. I've already asked you, but yes, I'd rather have redundancy, and you know how it is. Want to make sure that communication is great." All right. So reaching out to the client. Anybody else? The title company, right? The title company. So once the title company does this for a living. Title company does this usually maybe 100 times a month. So title companies could, in general, do 1,000 transactions a year. So if you're going through the motions, and let's say you collected the contract, you submit it to the title company. That's one of the first things you do. And actually, that's done by the sales team. The submitting the contract probably to the title company goes from the sales team to get it executed. Let's talk about that real quick. So when it comes to the contract, because 99% of the time we're in dispositions, right? Remember, guys, we're not in acquisitions, dispositions. Since we're in dispositions, we're usually representing the buyer, right? Representing the buyer. So 9 times out of 10, the seller is the one that decides the title company. Just that's always the case. Very seldomly we're able to pick the title company. So usually the acquisitions team would have already executed the contract, and the seller would have probably contacted the title company already and provided the information to the title company. And the title company is going to say, "Can I get a hold of the contact information of the buyer?" In this case, we're the one representing the buyer. The acquisitions team, like Christian will say, "Well, here's Don, Raj, and aside of, they're going to be the ones taking care of the gathering the documents or everything from the investor. And then once everything is submitted, you could always go to the title company and say, am I missing anything? Am I missing anything? So throughout the process, one of the most important partners will be the title company. Okay. I'm gonna ask Sidon as a assignment, Sidon, that you could at least visit the one title company that we use the most, AMZ, and have a meeting with them, with the asking expectations. What do you expect from us? What is a successful closing looks like? Make sure that you add that because you're gonna be the boots on the ground for the team.
Okay.
And you're gonna visit AMZ. And then you're gonna ask them what is a good transaction. Okay. This is gonna be viral, Sidon, not only because 99% we use them when we have control. But even when we don't use them, you can reach out to them and say, I don't understand what this title company is asking for this, or can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with that? Okay. So the task is for you to later reach out to me and I'll connect you with the title company. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. So no missing documents is important. Raj said, let's go over it. Let's ask the client. Good job. And then we talked about the title company. Who else can we ask if there's anything missing?
Don.
Ask Don.
Yeah, you're gonna ask me. Yeah.
Okay. So you could ask a team member, right? Any team
Yep.
member that's involved. Hey, am I missing anything here? Or between you guys, are we missing anything? But the most important one is the lender, right? Right. So we send it to the title company. The function of the title company. What is the function of the title company? The function of the title company is think about in the past when somebody was selling land, you would just sign a document and start building into this land. But if a king later said, "Oh, this is mine," or whatever the case might be, you will have to exit the land because there's no way of proving it, right? And you will lose everything you have. So that's why title companies came. They're like the middle guy. They're kind of like the lawyers without being lawyers. At least in the state of Florida, there's no lawyers involved. Where they go, all right, is this title clean? Can this be transferable to the buyer? That's all they do. When you think about it, that's all they do. The only function is that when your buyer is buying this, that nothing negative attaches to the property. What are some of the negative stuff that could attach to the property? Could be municipal liens, meaning somebody didn't pay TICO before, and now they send a municipal lien for $2,000. How can a regular person even know that? Nobody can. Nobody can unless you do a title search. But the title company does. They have advanced tech where they could go, wait a second. This guy left the light on for like 3 years. There's $5,000 that need to be paid. Oh shit. Okay, let's figure this out. Let's reduce the contract. Let's do something with it, right? So those are municipal liens. Okay. You could also have tax liens where the client say, yeah, I pay the taxes. Well, he was just lying. And then there's taxes for like 2-3 years, and you're thinking you're buying this property so cheap. And then all of a sudden you have another $10,000 and it messes up all the numbers. And what other ones you could have? And PM, what other ones you could have when it comes to managing a property? code violations. You can have a code violation. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know this, but about a couple of years ago, I got a code violation on one of my properties for $50,000. I'm like, what the hell is this? Can you believe it was due to cutting the grass? That was it. Not cutting the grass. $50,000. It compounded. With so many years, it compounded to $50,000. $50 a day penalty. Okay. So I didn't know. So here's an example where somebody would have not known and sell the property, and the title company would catch it 90% of the time. 90% of the time. If they didn't catch it, we'll be in big trouble. Okay. I was able to settle. Usually when it comes to code violations, they're not there to profit for the public. They're more there to set an example with you, and that's why they throw those astronomical numbers, so that way you can get your shit together quickly. But if you act in good faith, I went to the court, defended myself. I said, this is the first time that has ever happened to me. Can you be flexible to me, et cetera, et cetera? We settled for $2,000. So as you can tell, it's not about ripping off the regular Joe. It's about making an example and keeping the city pretty. But that's some of the stuff that the title company would do. So when it comes to missing documents, your best ally is going to be the title company. And if I were you, minimum daily, I will email the title company. Most of the communication, we also talked about the lender. The lender is important. A lot of the communication from the lender goes to the title company, and the title company tells you, hey, the lender is requiring a survey. Or the lender is requiring insurance for this amount of coverage. So, and that's when the title company will tell you this is the things you need to do. Now, don't rely just on the title company, because there's, in a lot of cases, we're the lenders on most of our deals. Greystone Lending Gear, which is Greystone Lending, most of the time with the lenders. So the information goes to the lender. We're not lenders, we're actually licensed brokers. Just like in real estate, you're a licensed agent, we're a licensed broker. MLO, right? Mortgage lender broker. So if we work together with the lender, the information actually drips to us first and then to the title company, if we are the lender. Sometimes we are the lender, sometimes we're not the lender. Sometimes the client wants to do cash. Sometimes the client says, I have my own lender. And when the buyer has their own lender, the communication will go through the title company. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Yep.
Let me ask you, Raj and Don, if the buyer has their own lender, where does the communication come from?
Can you repeat that?
If the buyer has their own lender, who has the communication first? Title or the lender?
I think it will be title company.
Nope, the lender. Okay. So when the client has the lender, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. My bad. If the client has their own lender, the title company, good job, is the one that will have the info, because we're not part of that transaction. Okay. Once again, if we're the lender, chances are Lisa or somebody here is gonna get from the lender, oh, they're missing ID. And then it goes to the title company. Sometimes they communicate with the lender and the title company at the same time. Most of the time, the lender or the broker, the lender to the broker, which in this case is Lisa. So depending on the scenario, you know who to reach out to. Communication and money. Remember that our goal is to close every deal on time and with zero surprises. So I don't care who you ask everybody if you have to. At the beginning, everybody's copy on the email, title company, the lender, the licensed broker like Lisa, whoever is doing the deal. Everybody is in the deal and we're asking, what's next? Am I missing any documents? Your job is to be proactive, not reactive. That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we discussed missing documents. Let's see how we're doing with time. 10. Okay, we're doing good. Missing documents. What are the documents that could be missed? Well, contract, of course. What else? IDs. What else? Insurance. What else? Anything that the lender wants to justify. Like sometimes the lender says, oh, you know what? I need 3 months of your bank statements. If we're doing the lending ourselves, there's a chance that you would work together with the licensed MLO. Let's start calling it MLO. Lisa's MLO, actually Cody's MLO. They're licensed mortgage operators. But for the moving forward, so I don't have to say the same thing 1,000 times, it's just MLO, okay? So if we're doing the lending in-house, chances are the MLO and you are gonna be collecting the documents at the same time. The MLO might say, hey, help me out with this. Or the MLO might say, already have it. But regardless, it's your job. Remember to close this on time and make sure that we don't miss anything. So you're always asking, who's the MLO on this deal? So Lisa, does it have an MLO? No, the buyer is an MLO. All right. Very important that we understand what the word MLO is. Mortgage license operator. Okay, mortgage license operator. So you have the lender lending the money, and then the MLO is the person representing the lender. Okay? Make sense? So,
All right.
so you have any missing documents? We talked about another one, which is a survey. What is a survey, guys? Anybody knows? Any of you dealt with that in the past? No? Okay. Survey is pretty much a report of your property lines. Somebody comes in with you. Have you ever seen one of those things that in a tripod where they're scanning the street, or those are surveyors. They're like taking pictures and stuff like that. Those are surveyors. So lately I've seen banks saying, oh, we need a survey, especially if the property is in a rural area. If it's within the city limits and there's subdivisions that you can see from the distance from Google Map that they're all the same lots in a subdivision, there's a chance that they go, I don't need it. But if the lot is in regular or more in a rural area, and they spot a fence that is on the verge of encroaching on the other property, they're gonna get a survey. So they want to make sure that they don't have any issues with the neighbor. Right? Well, some of the issues that you can have with the neighbor is if they installed a fence years ago in your property line, right? So you might say, well, listen, I want to build my own fence. You got to get that crap out of there, right? That makes sense? Sometimes you also have city lines that were not supposed to be where they are at. Let me give you some examples. I bought a property one time, and this is a true story, where the city line cut through the porch of the house. Nobody knew that. I didn't know that. I never, if they were very low income properties, so I never bothered to check the survey. And you know what we have to do? We have to cut part of the porch. Swear to God, we have to cut it. They were like bungalows, so they were like lifted up. So we have to cut the whole porch, so it wouldn't fall into the city line to get it approved. I didn't know that. So those are encroachments. Encroachments. Encroachment, I probably didn't spell it correctly, but I'll look it up later. An encroachment, let's see. Survey and encroachment. Okay. An encroachment is when somebody is in your land. That's simple. They're not supposed to be in your land. Or you're on their land. If your property, if you build up a fence and it's actually on the neighbor's land or on the city land, you're encroaching their land. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. Raj, what is encroaching?
Encroaching is you are on someone's property or someone's land.
Illegal, right? Illegal. Yep. So what happens? So in the worst case scenario, like me, thank God it was a frame home and I was actually able to cut that part of the house. But if it was blocked, then you had to demolish the whole house and put it somewhere else. That doesn't happen usually. What happens a lot is fencing, where there's big disputes, lawsuits, and stuff like that. So I guess the lenders are being more careful now. They're like, nah, I don't want to deal with this dispute later. Let's make sure the boundary lines are okay. Typically, a survey costs about $400, and I've seen a lot of our lenders ask for it. So, Sidon, when you're at the title company, and for anybody in the future watching this video, because this is going to be a video we're going to use to train anybody in the future, my advice is to go to the title company and have you send you an example of a survey. So that way you can see what the survey looks like. Okay? Looks like a map. Looks like a map. Somebody raise their hand? Hold on a second. Let me see. How do I get to you? Okay. What was that? What's up? What's up, Raj?
Can I just use 2 minute breaks because I need to use loop?
What was that?
Can I just take a 2 minute break? I need to use loop.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. All right, so we're gonna take a 5 minute break. We'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. Use the restroom. Use whatever you need. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers. Okay, guys, are we all back?
I'm back.
Don and Raj, you back?
Back.
Yep,
Okay.
Mir.
All right, let's hit the floor running. Let's see, we got an hour and a half, and we have. Okay, we're doing good. We're doing good. Like I said, in some cases, we might stretch it a little bit, but I'm not gonna jeopardize anything. Just to go faster. We just gotta make sure we cover everything. Okay. So we're talking about no missing documents. We talked about the survey, right? And we talked about the importance of the survey because we don't want an encroachment. And we talked about encroachment meaning usually what it means is somebody puts their fence on our yard or vice versa. And that has to be dealt with in a situation where we're selling a property and there's an encroachment. Then we will have to, that will give us, at least as buyers, an excuse to ask for more time. Okay. There are things that are the seller's responsibility, and there are things that are the buyer's responsibility, right? Ensuring that the property doesn't have an encroachment, that's the seller's responsibility. Okay. So it's not the buyer's responsibility. So if there's an encroachment, guess what? We could ask for extra time. Okay. And let's talk about that. When do we ask for extra time? We ask for extra time anytime that there's more task added to the closing, right? Because our goal is to have zero surprises and to close on time, right? Okay. Remember the goal. Close everything on time and with zero surprises. So in order to close something on time that now has new tasks to be done, we have to go to the seller and say we need more time in the contract because we want to close on time and we don't want any surprises. Okay. Closing on time doesn't mean I gotta close a specific day. It means I have to close within the time allowed in the contract. Remember why? Because if we're a day late, they could justify and break the contract and sell the property to somebody else. Okay. So when it comes to love, it's all about securing, making sure we close on time with zero surprises within the time allowed in the contract. If there's not enough time allowed in the contract, we can ask for more. Okay. And having an encroachment will be one of those where we say, well, wait a second, what do we do here? We gotta talk to the neighbor. We have to tell the seller this is going on. We have to the seller, how you gonna remedy it? And if the seller says, I don't want to remedy it, then we have to tell the bank, hey, you okay with this? Buyer, you okay with this? The fence is, because sometimes it could be, the fence is an inch into your property. Still an encroachment. In practical terms, do you care? Hell no, I don't care. If it's like an inch, I don't care. But depends on the buyer and the bank. If the bank says, nah, move it, then we can justify an extension. Okay. Extensions are super vital. Getting an extension done is super vital. So it is our job as we're looking at the properties in a weekly basis. I'm sorry, as we're looking at the file in a daily, weekly basis, that if we anticipate anything weird happening, surprises, that we quickly say, well, wait a second, this is gonna throw more time into the deal. We should get an extension, and then you consult it with the sales team. Hey, listen, the bank just requested a survey, and the survey was done, and there's some encroachments. that would definitely, if you ask me, we could add another 15 days to the property, to the contract. Okay. Remember, it's not when it closed, is that it closed by the contract date. We don't want to lose the deal. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
All right.
Yeah.
So what other documents could be missing? One that is missing a lot is insurance. For whatever reason, acquisitions, and including myself, we left things like this for last minute. Those are the things you guys are not gonna do because your focus is gonna be to let me get this baby done within the first few days. Let me get everything within the first few days, and then you're relaxing the other 27 days. Let me get the insurance. Let me get. If you're working like that, where you do all the upfront work right away, then all you do is checking that everything is fine the rest of the 30 days. So insurance is very important. When it comes to insurance, the coverages, this was important for you guys. So you can contact the insurance company. The Greystone Acquisitions team is going to say, hey guys, now get the insurance. And this is part of what Raj said to us, a list of documents. Good job, Raj. That will be one of them that we need, will be insurance. And then, hold on a second. Okay. And it's super easy. You tell the bank, you're going to say that to the bank, or the title company could ask the bank, hey, what are the minimum requirements for the insurance? And they're going to get it to you. And then you pass on that to the insurance agent, and you say, listen, here's the contract, and here's the minimum insurance terms that I need for this purchase price. That's simple. If you just take the contract and send it to them, and if you take the minimum requirements from the bank and you take it to them, and eventually it will be very good for you to have the standard documents for each bank that we use, because we typically use the same bank again and again. BCU is one of the banks that we use all the time. So if you know that their policy has to be X2 of the purchase price, you could even do the math yourself. You could even get ahead of it in the future where you go, well, the contract is 200,000, X2 400. Again, I need a insurance for X2 400 quickly, and you can do it fast. At the beginning, just get it from the contract, submit it to the insurance. When they ask you what is the purchase price, you just send them the contract so they don't miss anything. The contract has a buyer's name and everything else, the property address and all of that. And then you get from the lender what is the minimum requirement. Okay. Usually the bank might take 24 hours to give you that. So let's ask that right away. The really cool thing is about for the insurance agent, it only takes them like a few hours to come up with a quote. So even though the process takes 24 hours, the agent should get back to you within 24 hours. So it's important for you to be on the insurance agent being like, okay, when you have this, okay? The insurance, depending on how much it comes back, if it's something reasonable, we're done with it. If it's something too high, where the insurance is too high, it's just like any car payments side on and team. The house payment goes up. And if the house payment goes up too much, the person might not get qualified for lending. So if it becomes too high, all of a sudden, now we got to price around. Now the ops team has to find out maybe with the agents, reach out to the agents. Hey, do you guys have any other? Let me price. Oh, Jorge or Jay, or we're trying to get a better quote to help this deal close. Because your job is to make sure the deal closes, right? With no surprises. If the client can no longer afford it because the insurance is too high, that's something that you proactively will do for the acquisitions team. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Any other documents? Oh, so we have another document that if the property is rented, you need to ask for estoppel letter. And I believe we're gonna go over all of this later today, but might as well double down on it, triple down on it. As I'm thinking, we'll just go over it again and again and again because it's a lot of stuff. So you're gonna have the estoppel letter. The estoppel letter is when you buy the property with tenants, the seller is saying, "Oh yeah, they pay on time and they pay $1,000," and you're supposed to take their word for it, right? No, you're not. Because people lie. So you ask, sure, no problem, but we need to send a estoppel letter to the tenants, which is pretty much all it is a sworn statement that this is how much they're paying on time, and you also find out if there's any complaints about the property. Make sense?
Makes sense.
And in addition to the estoppel letter, you need to get leases, right? So you need to get leases and property plus any property management agreements. So if the property is rented, estoppel letter, leases, to make sure everything matches. It's very simple. 2 + 2. You want to look at the lease. So the guy selling it to us for $200,000. He said, "Man, this is worth $200,000. No, give me a discount. No, this is worth $200,000. Why? Because I'm renting it for $2,000. Okay, cool. And then when you verify it, it's only renting for $1,700. Don, what would you do at that moment?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Huh?
I'm sorry, what? Can you repeat the question?
All right. Are you listening to me? Can you hear me okay? Or
Yeah.
okay. Make sure to pay attention, please. If the property is supposed to be rent for $2,000, I mean, if we're talking to, if the seller said, "Hey, I'm selling this property for $200,000," and you try to get the price lower, but he says, "No, man, it's that this thing rents at the 1%, which is $2,000 a month for 200." You're like, "Great." What happens if when you're doing the double letter, turns out they're only paying $1,700? What should you do?
I'm not really positive what we'll lead to there, but we had like the same problem. I remember with Jimmy, right? Like when it messed up like the deal, but I think you figure something out. Like you talk to the um like the buyer, I guess, and then you just like negotiate something towards like to the PM fee, since we're gonna be managing the property. You remember that?
Yeah. So that's a good answer. So, but for the purpose of the training, the first thing you need to do is advise acquisitions, right? You have to
Okay.
say, "Is it Cody, quickly? This is only rented for $1,700. Ask for a discount, right?" Right.
Okay.
So the first thing that should come up is like, "Hey, listen, this is not 2,000. Hey, you have to," because what was sold and what was on the contract, because typically it's going to be on the contract, right? When we're doing when the sales team is doing the contract, it's going to say, subject to properties being rented, properties being rented for X amount of money. But if that's not the case, it's actually breaking the contract. Okay. And it's the seller's responsibility to provide accurate information. Okay, provide the estoppel letter, confirm the leases, and then transfer the escrow that we'll discuss in a second. But is the seller's responsibilities. If one of those are missing, they're not executing on the contract. Okay, so that means we're not liable if we put $1,000 down or $5,000 down and we want to walk away from it because this is on their side, right? They provided the wrong information. But when it comes to real scenarios, don't you like run to court and say, hey, listen, this is a lot less. What do we do? And then the options will be, can you lower the sales prices and not the rent we were looking for? Or like we did in Turner, it's like, no, that was an old lease. As a matter of fact, they are paying more now. I just haven't renewed the lease payments. Let me get back to you. I'm going to get that done. Okay. You give them the benefit of the doubt. Regardless, since our goal is to close every deal on time and with zero surprises, I would that would be a great opportunity to tell the seller, listen, I might need another 5 days while you figure this out. Well, it's early on in the process, but regardless, man. Now, I gotta confirm that's gonna affect the lending, how much you get on a monthly basis. It's gonna affect the lending. And I really need to make sure that it's gonna work. It's just gonna give us more time. We need an extra 5 days. Because it's not when you close the deal, it's that you close the deal within the contract time. So we don't lose the deal. That makes sense, Don?
Yep, understood.
Now, we like the deal. We want to convince the buyer to buy the deal. Then we do what you say we do. First, we go to the seller and we say, what can you do? I'm going to do A, B, C. I'm going to try to get the tenants to renew, scrap that lease, renew higher. I'll cut $10,000 less. Whatever it is that they want to do, and we have to deal with it. But now we have to go to the buyer, our buyer that we represent, and we have to say, hey, listen, things have changed. And then that's when you go, well, maybe we give this. Here's what we do for you to stabilize your cash. We're going to give you property management for free for a year, which is typically 10%. And we will figure something out to make it more attractive to the potential buyer. Because we still believe in the deal. We still believe that this is just tenants that are been there for a long time. It's under rented. So we're going to also try to pursue the client like that. When we go that route, the acquisitions team making the call on it. Because typically what happens is, let's say whatever assignment we're making on the deal, we're going to have to put some of that spread towards PM. So we're actually losing some of that money. Let me give you a hypothetical. We're going to make $15,000 in the deal. But now the only way to make it work is paying for the PM. So that way the rent that was going to be otherwise, let's call it $2,000. It's now $1,700. But PM was going to be $200 a month. We wiped that out. Another client is getting net $1,950, close to the $2,000. So we'll do that for them, but that's taking it out of our pockets anyways. So it's taking it from the $15,000 and applying to the PM fees. So, Raj, if we're charging a $15,000 assignment and the property management fee is $200 a month, how much will we have to give the investor from our assignment towards PM?
So if the property is 50,000 and
Let me repeat it again. The PM fee is $200 a month.
Okay.
And our assignment is $15,000. How much of our assignment do we have to give the buyer in order for them to cover PM for the year?
honestly, I have not done that part, so I will not know about this.
But think it through. It's easy, So
Totally we take up from the 15,000, right?
right.
Yeah. So 200 we take out from the 15,000, and remaining 14,800 we give it to them.
No, well, remember $200 a month for a year. We paying the PM fee for a year.
Oh, PMP for a year. So 200 into 2,400 we get.
Perfect.
And,
Good job. Good job. So 2,400 from the 15,000, right?
Yeah.
So 15,000
so
minus
12,600.
Yep. Yeah, so it's gonna be, let me do the math here. Yeah, 12,600. So good job, Raj. So we're gonna go, because remember when we're done, when you're doing the projections, they're yearly projections, right? When you're doing the cap rate calculator, you're saying, and you're coming up with the projections, it's yearly. So anytime, remember that we put on the cap calculator 0 property management, and that number
Yep.
should be 2,500, 2,400, right?
Yeah, for a year.
So that's what we will be covering. So on one end, we will lose 2,400 from the assignments, but at least we get it on PM long term. But if we have to do that to keep the client happy, we will do that. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, cool. Is there any other documents that we could be missing? We talked about the stop letter. We talked about the leases. You guys know what a lease is? Lease is the contract between the owner of the property and the tenant. Okay, there's two types of leases. You have the lease, the one that we're used to, 12-month lease, or you have the month-to-month lease. Month-to-month typically is reserved for tenants that you don't want the property for too long, right? The month-to-month is, so it could go either way. Sometimes the tenants say, you know what, I don't mind signing a month-to-month because I'm thinking of moving out soon, going to college, getting married, whatever the case may be, and you do the month-to-month. Nine times out of 10, is the owner of the property is the one dictating whether they want the month-to-month or not. It's not usually the tenant's call. It's something more that the owner wants to do. So, and it's probably 90% of the time, it's probably because they're waiting to have a little more money to update the property to somebody else, or they're waiting to do something to increase their income. So they're on a month-to-month basis. Okay. And then you have the yearly. Very important that the minute that you collect them, let's say in this scenario, the leases are right at par, meaning that they said 2,000, they're at 2,000. Okay. What things should we bring up to the EA team when we're looking at those leases, Don?
Like the leases, like the contract.
Yeah. When we're looking at the leases, what things should we be looking out for?
I mean, usually like the lease end date if they are like on a long-term rent, or if it's like month to month. Yeah. And sometimes, by the way, PM asks for like the what do you call it, like the contact information of the tenants as well, like for the handover or something. Yeah.
That's a good one. Contact. You answered that better than I would have answered. Contact info. Yes, absolutely. End day. End day and contact info. End day because if that, let's say hypothetically, the sales team is having a hard time selling it, but if the end day is tomorrow, and you can say, let me check out what the rents are for today, and then all of a sudden the rents are 2,200. You can reach out to the sales team and say, hey guys, Just notice this. This thing ends tomorrow. And that property can rent for 2,200. Holy crap. Okay. Then the Don is redoing the numbers and saying, Mr. Klein, guess what? Your cash flow is even more. Crap. And you can be the hero, save the deal because you spotted that information. Okay. That's important. Second, when it comes to the contact information is super important because lately we've been not doing great on that, and then we do the whole process, and then the tenants, we reach out to the tenants afterwards. And the problem that reaching out to the tenants after we close, what do you think is the problem, Crash? If we reach out to the tenants after we close, they don't know us, right?
Maybe they might. Tenants having a problem after we close. So ownership, maybe it will change, and that will be the problem for them because they would have been tenant would have been contacting the previous owner, and now they have to get in touch with the new owner and figure out things. Maybe that could be a problem.
Exactly. So you have more leverage with getting the seller involved, right? He wants to make the deal work. So if there's any, let's say hypothetically, the tenant says, he promised me to put a new fridge. You want to tackle that before closing. I mean, that will be on the stopple letter. That's why we have to be very good with the stopple letter because the seller will say, they're fantastic. They don't ask for nothing. They're never late. They pay on time. And then what happens is when we own it, they don't pay on time. They're not fantastic. And they want the world. So that's why it's important that we tackle them while the seller is like, let me do what I need to do. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Importance of the leases and all of those things to be right. The contact information is important because we want to be able to early on have a nice PM member from Greystone and say, hello, just wanted to give you the great news that now you under new management, our services are great, we're gonna love you, et cetera, rather than last minute. Hey, I don't know if you know this, we closed yesterday and your payment is late, and stressing the hell out of a new tenant. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I think we're pretty much, this no missing documents is one of the most important. Actually, I will highlight it. One of the most important things you do in this process is not missing any documents. And we talked about the contract, we talked about the survey, we talked about the stopper letter, we talked about the insurance, we talked about leases. I think we cover everything. I am sure I'll remember something later, but this is a very important part of it. I will say if you know all of the documents, if you never miss documents, your job is done. It's 90% on your focus, okay? All right. So second point when it comes to, and that's what's the number one point when it comes to zero surprises, right? Number 1 point. Number 2, no delays due to lack of follow-up. So you know that you're missing you need all these documents. Don't wait on the 29th of the month to ask for any of them. Always be ahead of time, okay? The worst thing that could happen is that now we need an extension because our own fault. That you could think about that as being, we become kind of like useless in other words, because if we can't even, can acquisitions call it out of company code and say, hey, can you get this done? Yes. But the whole point that we're have a team to do is to professionalize it and to make sure that this never happens. The most important thing that should happen all the time is closing on time. There's no excuses for that, right? Because right now we have one person doing it while selling it, and we close 99% of the time on time. Our goal should be to close 5 days early, actually. All right, no delays due to the lack of follow-up, no confusion from the buyer or the seller. The buyer should know where he stands on the deal. So if I were you, on a weekly basis, Mr. Buyer, do you have any questions on the process? And while you're also asking everybody involved, right? Like the title company mainly, because the title company is the one wanting to gather everything. So that way we don't have last minute issues at closing. Let's talk about some of the last minute issues at closing. The client is a foreign national, and we can't do just a simple notary. He has to go to an embassy because he's in a different country. If we fail to tackle that early on, we're not going to close on time. I can guarantee you that. So if we know that it's a foreign national and he's signing all the way from Greece or Spain, we have to, at least a week in advance with the title company, figure out the remote notary. Is the bank going to allow to do virtual notary? Let me write that down right here. Or is the bank going to require, or the bank is going to require that the person goes to an embassy or whatever the case may be. So that needs to be, if you tackle it a week prior to closing, no issues. If we were last minute, we lost that assignment. $20,000 down the toilet, $15,000, and that would be really bad. So that's super important. Okay. What other issues? Don, any other issues that you could think of, or Raj, in the time that you guys have dealt with either agents or Greystone Acquisitions? Last minute, you think?
For me, it's not really like an issue, but I actually have a question when it comes to the closing. Like the key transfers. Let's say when our client is like a foreign national, I'm not really like, what do you call it, like transfer included on that process. So, but I have like the previous SOP that we like request the keys to be mailed to us. Have you done that or something?
Yes. Continue.
Okay, yeah. This is my only question. I mean, what's the like standard process when it comes with that? Like we
Because the foreign nationals.
Yeah.
We will go that in more in depth later, but it's simpler than you think. For a foreign national, it's same as somebody out of state. Is how they're gonna sign. Remember, the keys are gonna stay here with PM for the
Okay.
most part. So how they're gonna sign? So if they're out of state, it's a little easier. If they're out of the country, it's a little more difficult. If it's within the country, a lot of the same procedures work. The same as Florida and other states, you might be able to do virtual notarizing, or have somebody, a carrier, or somebody in person to do that. So there's 3 types of notarizing. You have the notarizing that is the normal notarizing, notarizing. Let me go more granular. Notarizing. It's simply the function of saying, I verify side on a side. That's it, right? As a notary, the only qualifications that you have to have is no criminal background, that you've been good citizen, and that you swear that the person that signed is the person that signed. That's all the notary is. So when you're closing a deal, you require a notary, whether you're here or you're in the moon. If you're here, the title company can send somebody themselves, and it's called a mobile notary. They'll come here and do the notary. If it's a regular notary, we go to the title company and sign. If it's a digital notary, it's something new. And the way it works is we go into a Google Meet like this, and then it's like there's two people that are witness. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Has sugar already?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So the way that a mobile notary works is you have like a judge type of guy, and then two people that are act like the, how do you call them? Witnesses. Yeah, witnesses. Because when you sign a notary, you have two witnesses. You have the notary person that is the one licensed. I go, yeah, J is J, Rash is Rash, Don is Don, sign. And that person's supposed to be in front of you. When it comes to virtual, you have a person, the notary, asking you questions, and you have the two witnesses on the side saying yes, yes, yes. And for the most part, that works. And it's like a minute. It's like, you swear that's you? Yes, that's me. Show an ID. You go, show an ID. Witnesses, are we good? That's him. Yeah, that's him. And then we sign it. That's it. All right. That's the function. All they're doing is confirming that you is you. That's it. 99% of the time, which is within the states of United States, including Puerto Rico and any other territories, that's good enough. Just do a virtual notary and we're good to go. When it comes to other countries, because a little more complex, and they might have to go to the U.S. Embassy of that country to make it happen. Okay? So let me ask you the difference, Saira. You have three. You have the in-person notary or remote notary, and you also have the digital, and then you have the embassy. What are the difference between the three?
So I know the normal notary, you said, typically just need the person to be in front of you, verifying that you are who you say you are. I heard for the virtual notary, typically you would have to have the same process, but you said two witnesses as well. Is that specifically just for like virtual notarizing?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. So when it comes to the regular notary, you're supposed to go to their office and sign. The regular notary, when we say remote notary, is because the client's like, I'm lazy, you come to me. That's all it is. They come to you. Okay? Remote notary. When it comes to remote notary or regular notary, you have to have the witnesses, but here's the key. The actual notary can be one of the witnesses. So you could have Jake sign the notary as a notary, because he's a licensed notary, so am I, and also be a witness. And then you would just need Lakey in the case that they come here. In the case that you go there, the same. It could be Keith notarizing somebody else a witness, and Keith being a witness again. You can do that. For virtual, you need three different people on the screen with you at the same time. Make sense?
Makes sense, yeah.
And then the last one, I'll help you with the last one, is the embassy. You got to go to a U.S. embassy if you're in China or wherever, Hong Kong, or wherever you are. You need to be able to, that takes a lot of pre-planning. The minute you hear that, I would argue, can we do this in 30 days? Hey, Cody, acquisition team, can we really do this in 30 days? So we should get from the get-go 45 days for foreign national. Because
For foreign nationals, you should the embassy notarizing. They need to come to the U.S. You said.
No, they go to an embassy, a U.S. embassy. What that means is there's they have a U.S. office within their country. They have to go to that U.S. office within the country. Okay?
Gotcha.
So if they're in Spain, they gotta go to the U.S. embassy. Most of the time, that is the case, unless they're a U.S. citizen and they can travel here quickly, or a resident that could come, sign, and go back home.
Got you.
So those, to me, that's huge for when we're talking about the last minute issues at closing. That's a big one, knowing that it's a foreign national or a regular person, but they happen to go on vacation the same day of closing, or they're not around the same day of closing. You're like, and then you're like, I assume the buyer knew that he had to be here. Well, no, don't assume that. Because the buyer might say, well, I didn't know. I thought we could do it digitally. It's like, do it. I mean, you're in Tampa, we're going to do this thing. And the day of closing, you're in Hawaii. So that's very important that we make sure, where are you going to be? How are we going to close this thing? You determine that from day one. That makes sense?
Yeah, can I ask one more question about that?
Yeah.
So when it comes to for you to go to the U.S. embassy, that is typically just for if you're a foreign person.
Yes.
And you're able to do a virtual if you are a U.S. citizen.
Yeah. So let me read. So virtual is anywhere within the U.S. Think of it anywhere. So if you're anywhere in the U.S., and as a matter of fact, it's not whether you're a foreign national or not. It's that you're not in U.S. Because if you're a foreign national and you have an ID, you do a regular closing.
Makes sense. Okay.
It's about this Hong Kong. Different rules, different stuff. They don't. It's not the same laws as U.S. So you have to pre-plan on how this and the person can't travel to U.S. or at least not anytime soon. Do we give up on the sale? No, we just do the embassy stuff. That makes sense?
Makes sense. Gotcha.
Makes sense, Don? Raj?
Understood.
Okay. What other last minute issues could happen is also when you're looking at the HUD. This is something important. Looking at the HUD. And we're going to go over this later, but the HUD is the closing. It's the closing statement. So let's say that let's say you're looking at the HUD. When should we ask for a HUD? Guys, who wants to take a guess? No? Well, HUD is the closing statement, right? It's like where you add everything up. That's all it is. You're adding everything up. The charge of the title company, because they gotta get paid. They don't do stuff for free. The lender, everybody. So it's like think of it as a receipt. A receipt of your purchase. And think of you like inviting your whole family to eat in a fancy restaurant. And you're gonna want to look that bill and be like, shit, let me make sure that 2 margaritas, what the fuck? You want to make sure that you account for everything. So that's what the HUD is. At the end, you're gonna look at the bill and say, they charged me twice for the survey, or didn't charge for the survey, or whatever the case may be. Okay. And typically you want to have the HUD minimum 3 days prior to closing. Prior to closing. What are the things Raj, that are important to have when it comes to things that need to be charged on the HUD? What do we look for?
I don't know if it's in the meeting.
Huh? Raj is not in?
He might have disconnected or left.
All right. Did that happen recently or what?
It just happened a few seconds ago.
Wow, okay. Okay, so Don, I'll ask you, what are some of the things that you feel that are important to have in your restaurant bill that you want to count?
Yeah, of course, the charges. When it comes to our, real estate, I'd say like the compensation amount and
Compensation. Yes. Let's
other fees. Yeah.
call it the buyer compensation because we're representing the buyer. What else?
Buyer. Okay. And other miscellaneous fees or something.
No, don't give me miscellaneous. Be more detailed. Think about who are involved in the process. We talked about it just now. The fees of whom?
Okay, yeah, Greystone. Okay. Our fees and what else?
Think about who's working on the deal, and think about the fact nobody works for free, right?
All right.
So what are the fees that we need to look at?
What else?
Come in. Hey, how you doing?
Who's involved in the deal? Don.
Yeah. First, like uh, the both the seller and buyer, and then the title closing fees.
So title has to get paid, right?
Yeah, title closing fees or
What else? We said survey, right?
yeah, surveys.
So the surveyor has to get paid.
Yeah.
Who else is involved? Think about who are the people involved in the deal. Cash or not cash?
Yeah, lending.
Lending.
Yeah,
Okay.
the loan of you finance and um,
You're missing one. Come on, you can get it. We talked about it.
does the rehab or like the repairs would be included there or not yet?
No, not yet. No.
Okay.
Now, let me correct myself. If it's a flip loan, it's gonna say if we're financing the repairs, it will show on the HUD as reserves. So it will show on the HUD like loan amount. Are you back, Raj?
Yes, I'll just keep my video off because I'm having internet issue.
Okay, no problem. All right. So Don, the only time the reserve is going to be in the HUD is if it's financed into the deal, it's going to show into the HUD
Okay.
research. So good job. What else? Think about the people that we talked about just now. All the people that you have to connect with. What are we missing? You said lending already. You said title. You said
Yeah, lending title, Grayson with the assignment fees. Yeah.
assignment fee.
Then what else am I missing?
Think about it. What do we need for a property? We need the lending. We need title. What else we need?
Let's see. Lending title.
Remember we talked about coverages and stuff. What's the coverage that's needed that we gotta ask lending?
Okay, check this here. What's missing?
We said earlier we need to make sure that this thing is affordable enough so the payment doesn't go up. Insurance, exactly.
Like the insurance?
So good job. So
Yeah.
when it comes to the HUD, you have to check that title is charging the fees correctly. A really good ops manager checking all the time that, even $1. But listen, you charged me 500 last time. Why are you charging me 750? That's a really good ops person goes and make sure that the title is charging correctly. Oh, the lender. It's like, I see overcharging us is in the lender. You have, what's the lender? Two pieces with the lender. You have points, also called origination fees. That's right in here. Points or so you're gonna have points and origination fees. And also there could be a processing fee. So Greystone, when it comes to the MLO Greystone lending, we charge 2 points and one processing fee of, how much is the processing fee? Anybody knows? $950. Okay, so we charge 2 points and $950 is what Greystone lending charges. Okay, think of the relationship of Greystone lending and the lender itself that's lending into the property. We're partners. So if what is the function of the MLO? Well, the MLO is, you have to think about the MLO is kind of like a conduit from the ambassador of all of these different banks, right? The banks say, hey, sell my product, sell my product, sell my product. And you as the MLO is the one that have the term sheets, the calculators, and you kind of like, you're the bridge between the bank and the client. The bank's gonna charge points, the MLO is gonna charge points, the bank could charge an office fee, and we're gonna charge an office fee. So in a real scenario, typically the bank, let's call it Visio lending, it's gonna charge 1 point. And us origination, and a processing fee for whoever it is that is processing the deal. Sometimes it could be $2,000. Okay. Then Visio is saying, Greystone Lending, Lisa, the rep from Greystone Lending, you can charge whatever you want on top of that. And then Lisa is as an MLO charging 2 points and processing fee of 2K. So if the loan is $200,000, that's what's left to be financed. You take, we have 1 point from Visio, 2 points from Lisa, and then $4,000 on total fees. So 1 point of 200,000 is 2,000, right? 2 points of 200,000 is 4,000. So we got 1,000 for Visio, 2 for processing fee, 4 for Lisa, and another 2 processing fee. Client pays $9,000 on lending fees. Any questions about that? If I ask you guys to do this exercise again, you guys be able to do it?
Yeah. Okay.
Guys, make sense? Don, Raj, any questions?
It will practice on doing this.
What was that?
It will need a little practice for doing this if you ask us to process this. So we will might need a live example for this.
Okay. So let me then in that case, let me repeat it a few times and let me do an example, okay? So let's say that I hate this thing. Come on. There you go. All right. Can move the calculator. Ah, here it is. All right. So let's say that Raj, I'll sell your condo for how much are condos? What your ideal condo in downtown where you live will cost you in India?
In India, it will cost me around 5 million.
100,000?
Indian. No, I'll say 50 lakhs, which is Indian rupees.
You said
50 lakhs, which
500,000?
is 500,000. Around 500,000.
Wow. All right. So let's say that I give Raj 500,000. Raj, so you can buy the deal of your dreams. Okay. How much would be the lending? Well, we know that Lisa charges 2 points or otherwise 2%. And then $2,000 processing. And the bank that Lisa represents charges 1 point and also 2K processing. Now, these numbers are based on the loan amount, not based on nothing else. They're not going to charge you interest or points on your down payment because you're not needing that money. You only need the difference, right? So let's say on the 500,000, I say, I'm not able to give you the 500, but I'm going to give you 50,000. Raj, you've been with us for a long time. I want to make this dream come true for you. Boom, 50,000. That will mean that minus 50, the loan amount is 450, right? Right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Raj, you follow me so far?
Yes.
Okay. All I've done is take out 50,000 that I lent you. And I said, don't pay me back. Just saying, it's a gift. All right. So now you have a loan for 450. Based on this, Don and Raj, this is where we're going to charge us a percent for Lisa, the 1% for the bank, the 2K processing fee, and the 2K processing fee. So what will we do here to the 450, Don? Multiply by 2, right?
Right.
All right, so we will multiply it by 2%. That comes out to $9,000. So we're going to put here in between parentheses 9,000. All right, and then we're going to erase it and put back again to 450, which is, remember, I given $50,000 out. And then we go to the bank 1% times 1%. It's going to come out to 4,500. So we're going to go 4,500. And now the math is gonna be 9K plus 2K in here, 4,500 plus 2K, right? Don will add it all together, right?
Yep.
Right, that makes sense? 9,000 plus 2,000 plus 4,500 plus 2,000. That's how much they will pay in closing costs. That makes sense? Not in closing costs, on just on the loan amount, the loan part of it. Make sense, guys?
Makes sense.
All right. So on the HUD statement, you will be looking at this number, making sure. And the way you will look at the HUD statement would be, this is how it would look like. It'll be like BCO, and then a couple of dashes, and you're gonna have the bank part, which is 4,500 plus 265. And then you're gonna have lending gig, which is Lisa Greystone, will be making 11. And thus, when I'm looking at the HUD, I want to make sure that this matches up. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right. See how we're doing with time. Probably gonna have to leave the questions for tomorrow. Okay. So we were talking about what we were talking about last. We were talking about plus statement, points, originations. Yep. So last minute, one of the most important things to make sure is that the HUD is order on time, 3 days prior to closing. The HUD that is not completely accurate is called the preliminary HUD. So you guys, when it comes to reclosing Friday, by no later than Tuesday, you want to have a preliminary HUD. Okay, so that way you're able to check that is indeed this number shows for Visio, this number shows for lending gig. Then you have another $2,000 for title, 500 for what do you call it? Survey, insurance. And I think that title, insurance, lending, and that's pretty much it, right? Make sense?
Makes sense. And that's usually are those all of the closing costs that you just listed?
Exactly.
Okay. And typically, like, do they have like a percentage that usually they charge, and you can take whatever the property's worth and do the numbers that way?
Exactly. So once you know it, technically a good operator doesn't need to wait for the preliminary HUD to kind of know what the closing cost is going to be. As you go, you'll be able to say, well, ma'am, for lending, you're looking at about 5% in between lending gig and, once you start guesstimating and giving the client more or less, because this could be, Lisa could tomorrow say, you know what, I'm just going to charge one or waive this fee. But this part for Greystone is usually standardized. This part for the banks is usually standardized. So somebody could come to you and you could quickly say, it's 1%, 2%, so it's 3% plus $4,000. So 3% total for 400,000 is 12,000 plus another two and two for, you're gonna pay about 16,000, ma'am, or 17, whatever the case may be. So you're able to come up with it quickly. Okay. The only other thing that I miss here, I'm sorry, taxes. I think with that we have everything. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, let's see. We got 23 more minutes. Let's see how much we can cover. But I like it. I like the fact that we're going slow, because you know what's going to happen is when we do day 3 or 4, it's going to be a lot of repeat. So day 1 we go super slow. I could tell we're going to have to split day 1 in 2 days, but day 3 is going to go exponentially faster. Day 4 is going to go exponentially faster because they're going to be like a lot of repetition. But I promise you, if you pay attention, you'll be super valuable for Greystone. Once you learn this is going to be huge for you. Okay? All right, let's see how much we could get done. If something goes wrong, you should have seen it coming. That's what a good operator does. And easiest way to tackle this is asking everyone on the file, are we missing anything? Asking title, buyer, everybody on the file, are we missing anything? Are we good to go? Guys, I'm just going to ask you daily because I want to be ahead of it. If something goes wrong, I want to be able to see it coming. Okay? So your mindset is that you're not reactive, you're proactive. You must constantly ask, what could go wrong with the deal? If something is unclear, clarify it early. If something is missing, chase it immediately. If something is slow, follow up intensively. Okay? The good thing about this role right now, guys, is in the best month we've had, we do 3 deals. And the worst month we have, we do 0 deals. Ideally, we do a minimum of 2 deals a month and eventually 4 deals a month, which is 1 deal a week. So the job is not intensive at all, especially if there's going to be 3 of you tackling it. And all of you will have your niches done, will be more on the writing of deals, etc. Raj and inside will be a different part of it. But you guys all help each other. You guys all compensate each other. You all supplement each other. I'm also gonna teach all of them on the writing properties and all of those things, so that way we have redundancy. So it's very important, Don. This is not an option. We have to learn this. Okay, everybody, ops need to know this from A to Z. Okay. What else do you not reactive? Your role of the manager is that you're the quarterback of the deal. If you don't do the work, make sure that it gets done on time. That's it. Okay, you make sure it's done on time. We were talking about this. You see how I was telling you, Don, that exponentially it gets easier because we're gonna start repeating things. See, here's some of the people that we that are involved in the deal: buyer, investor, lender, title company, vendor, rehab team, property manager, seller, wholesaler, inspector, insurance agent. All right. So who's the buyer? The buyer is the person buying the property. Pretty simple. Usually it's an investor. For Greystone, 90% of the time are new investors, so they don't know what they don't know. As a matter of fact, here's the paradox of things. all of us in this call know more than the average Greystone investor. Okay. So that's, in a sense, that's pretty cool because you can feel yourself with pride at how much you've learned from somebody that's here locally, that hears the news and hears about real estate investing daily. You're already eons of years ahead of them. On the other hand, you have to realize that they have zero experience and they're relying on us to get things done. So it's very important for you to know the background or the psyche behind an investor, right? Sometimes, especially when we're in a different country, we feel like we're virtual assistants. We tend to think right away that the client knows better than we do. And that affects the way how we do operations, right? A lot of times the buyer will say, well, the client doesn't have the buyer can say that the buyer doesn't have a stopper letter. And then we go, well, Jorge, I didn't process because the buyer said that the seller didn't have a stopper letter. It's not about having it, it's about creating one. Then we go back to the client, well, we need to create one and he needs to present one to the clients. Stopper letter is not something that anybody has. It's something that is created. It's a verification. As a matter of fact, the title company can help you create one. Then passing it on to the seller to just confirm all the information is correct. But if we understand the psyche and if we understand our investors better, then we could feel more bullish when we're in the driver's seat. We could say, well, Mr. Client, I don't understand your statement. We always need it. We're going to have to research this more, but we need this. No matter what, we need this. Because based on your study and your learning here, you understand that that's needed. And it feels really good when the client goes, oh crap, you were right. Now you're in control. Now you're driving. Now you go faster. Now the client believes in you. And it's a really good feeling when your passenger is having a good time. When your passenger is like, oh, wait, no, be careful with that bump. It's not fun, right? I don't like it when the wife or significant other is like, hey, stop it. Hey, put the brakes in. It's the same way. But in order for us to be able to earn that trust, we need to gain the knowledge. It's very important that we understand who our buyers are. They don't know anything. So don't assume anything. Know that you know everything. And by the time you're finished with this, you'll know everything. And they don't know anything. Okay? That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Yep.
So even on our most sophisticated clients, the clients that have millions of dollars, make millions, when you ask them, they don't know anything. Most of the time they hurt themselves by thinking they know. So it's your job to say, well, based on my education, based on the training, this is what it's supposed to be. So let me look into it. The lenders, we know what the lender are. We talked about it. There's the difference between the lender and originator, right? We said that the lender is the bank. The originator is the person the bank hires to originate. In this case, in the exercise we did earlier, example was Visio. And who was the originator as an example? Who wants to go for that one? Who was the originator on the example that I... Lender was Visio. Who was the originator? Nobody knows? The originator was Lisa, right? Right? Lending Gig is the originator. So when it comes to the lender, it's a combo: the bank and the originator. MLO, mortgage originator. MLO, remember, licensed mortgage originator. MLO. Okay, so you got the bank and you have the MLO. In this case, is Lisa is the. And that's why Lisa gets paid. That's why Greystone Lending gets paid, because the lender needs a conduit, somebody that could take the apps, could do, could be on the client side, so to speak. Make sense?
When you say MLO, is it the same thing when you say mortgage lender operator and originator?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and what does it mean when you say originator? What is that definition?
Well, when you think about who starts the application, it's not the bank. It's not like the bank walks to your door and says, "It started the application." The originator of the application is the mortgage, the MLO.
Gotcha.
That originate things, you know.
That makes sense more.
Makes sense. So if you hear the word, guys, Don, originator, MLO, mortgage broker, any of those are the same. The only time that there's difference is when somebody says lender. And I've heard people say, "Oh, my lender is Lisa." Well, what they mean is that Lisa helps them finding lenders. But in reality, Lisa's an MLO. Okay, and so actually, by the way, Cody's also a licensed MLO. Both licensed MLO. They're required to pass a test, just like an agent, and it's pretty difficult. Make sense?
Makes sense.
I think we're gonna leave it there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it where, let's see, what can I do so I can remember where we left it at. How about we put it yellow? And we know that's where we left it at. And we'll continue day 1 tomorrow on day 2. What I'm gonna do, give you guys, I think you guys might be able to answer some of these questions. I'm gonna give you these questions to you guys, so you guys can start studying them, and then we'll go over them tomorrow. Is that cool?
Sounds good.
All right.
And we try to get ahead. Hopefully we can hit. Put it in the wrong place. What is the name of our group? Yeah, GA Ops. Yeah, that's ours.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Jeez. All right. So here's the exercise for today. Just study the questions. Try to get them done before the end of the day. You guys could talk to each other and figure out. So I don't have to put you ahead of this. Just you can say take 3. I take 3, and then we'll start tomorrow with how you guys did the questions. And then there's not a right or wrong answer. It's so we can hit, hit the floor running. And then also tomorrow we'll go over what is that description, what is the description of the role to you. Sounds like a plan?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for the time. I hope that this been helpful. I'm also going to send you the recording so you guys could go over the recording. Take this as the most important training you've had in your life, because it is. So I'm not going to do it again. Somebody asked me to do this, I'll charge you $20,000. I swear to God. So take advantage of this and learn it. Take your time. This is just day 1 of like 17 days. Just you'll be so proud to say once you finish with this course, you know more than anybody in the company. So let's make sure we really take our time. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I know you put in the questions here in the chat. Where again can we find like the notes, the resources, and again like the videos? I know you said you're working on that still, but at least the notes, where can we find and access them on our own time?
So when it comes to every note that was created in this meeting, I'm gonna put it in the group in a few. Once the system creates it, and it's gonna be really fun because it breaks it down really nice. And we should also have the video version of today if you want to review it as well.
All right.
Make sense? Has it been helpful so far?
Oh yeah,
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
learning a lot.
I'm trying to go as granular as I can. It's not my strength. I'm the educator when it comes to writing. I know my stuff more than most people, but educating like this is first time, so I'm sure that I do well. I'm taking my time. I hope that you guys see that. Okay. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Don't forget to do the exercise of going over the questions. Sidon, you're the lead on that. However you guys want to do it, but tomorrow we're gonna jump on that right away. Oh, what am I saying? At 2 p.m. we meet again. By the way, we have one special training on the writing. It's gonna be exciting. It's a must be. It's real deals that we're gonna be on the writing to see if we could put any of those on the contract. Bill is gonna be there. Oh, Don, here's what I need from you, Don. Get with Bill and ask him what are the three, since you're the most advanced in this class, what are the three that he's going to be presenting, so that way you have the calculators ready to go.
Yep, I got something right now. I'll do that.
And we'll start using those when we come in. We'll use your calculators and we take it from there. Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right.
See you.
Bye.